Shalom. All praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh, Shamraka, Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the Great Millstone, and salutations to all the sincere camp. And this is your brother Abawan, back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh, Shamraka, Kwadash. All praises and glory is due. And in this video, I'll be talking about something I just observed while I was watching this series right here. And the series hasn't really been has been going on for a long time. I think it's up to season 3 right now, and this is basically Godfather of Harlem. What that series is covering the history or the story of Bumpy Johnson, which is one of these gangsters that used to roam New York back during the time of the civil rights era. Bumpy Johnson, Frank Lucas, and the like. That was when the whole mob thing, the Italian mafia, was really big back then in New York, right? But eventually that got dismantled. I think it was during the time of guys like Al Pacino and the like. And the thing that actually got me that put the spirit on me to even do this video is that all throughout that series, okay, whenever they refer to the Italian mafia or the Italians, they were always calling the Italians guineas, 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 right? Whenever they were talking about the Italians, they were always calling them guineas. And I'm here in West Africa, so I understand that whenever you refer to the term Guinea, right, there are multiple countries. I think there are like is 2 or 3 countries here in West Africa that are referred to as Guinea. You have Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. And these are all countries, I believe, are all countries here in West Africa. I think there's also a country called Papua New Guinea, but I believe that one is in um, the Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand region. Okay, don't quote me on that. But unfortunately, my data is not fast enough right now for me to actually go and do any research on that. So let me just test that. Let me just test that real quick. I believe that Papa or Pop, I don't know how I don't know how they pronounce it, but Papa here it is, and that's what I said. It's actually in Oceania. That's basically where this Oceania is Australia, New Zealand, that region. So you have 4 different nations that are going into this that have this term or this word Guinea in them. So I was curious, like, why are they calling the Italians Guineas? Because I know that that word Guinea, it's never been used for Italians. So I decided to do a little bit of research on it. And this is what I got. I did a little bit of research, went into the etymology, went into the history, and then the reason why the Italians were called Guinea. So this is the Wikipedia article going into the word Guinea. So let's just start from the definition. Guinea, officially the Republic of Guinea, Republique de Guinea, is a coastal country in West Africa. It borders the Atlantic Ocean to the west of Guinea-Bissau, to the northwest Senegal, to the north Mali, to the northeast Cote d'Ivoire, to the southeast Sierra Leone and Liberia. To the south, it is referred to as Guinea-Conakry, after its capital Conakry, to distinguish it from other territories in the eponymous region such as Guinea-Bissau and Equatorial Guinea. So you see that just in West Africa alone, there are 3 different nations that bear the name Guinea. Okay, and there is a reason for that. So Guinea has a population of 14 million and an area of 245k or 246,000 approximately square kilometers. But this isn't actually the information I wanted to bring out. But rather, this information I want to bring out is somewhere around here. I believe this is it. Or this should be it. Yeah, this is it. This is it. This is it right here. So Guinea is named after the Guinea region, which lies along the Gulf of Guinea. It stretches north through the forested tropical regions and ends at the Sahel. The English term Guinea comes directly from the Portuguese word Guinea, which emerged as the mid-15th century to refer to the lands inhabited by the Gu1neas, a generic term for the black African peoples south of the Senegal River, in contrast to the tawny Zenaga Berbers above it, whom they called Azenges and Moors. Okay, So what I want to run, I want to get the definition of this word Zen Naga Barba, because I believe that was referring to the Senegalese people. Zenegua, that term that was used here, which is Zenaga. Okay, Zenaga. Right. So I want to get the this term Zenaga Berba. It's not Barba, Berba, but Berba. Zenaga Berba. Right. And here it is. So the Naga language, the Naga is a Berber language on the verge of extinction, currently spoken in Mauritania and northern Senegal by a few hundred people. The Naga Berber is spoken as a mother tongue from the town of Mederda in southwestern Mauritania to the Atlantic coast and in northern Senegal. The language is recognized by the Mauritanian government, right? So what you are seeing here is that these Senegalese and Mauritanians, which are also in West Africans and a part of West Africa, are referred to as Moors. Okay, and this is the reason why I actually went to do this video, because while I was doing research on the Guineas, basically you are seeing that even Esau is admitting that, hey man, the Moors were Jake was the Moors, and the Moors came out of West Africa, because if you go into the history, right, you had Senegalese, and it's interesting that that region and is that region that is still they are still referring to as Moorish people to this day. But you did have Senegalese Moors, okay, or Moors that came from places like Senegal, places like Mauritania, which of course you have a lot of Hamites in Mauritania right now, man. That's why you have the because you still have a there's a slave trade going on there more or less. I wanted to do a video on it, but the spirit didn't really give me enough inspiration to do that. But anyway, that's beside the point. That's not what we're focusing on right now. And basically, this term Guinea is actually referring to a black African, sub-Saharan, so-called black African, sub-Saharan African, which is of course Jake. Okay, because for the most part, whenever you talk about the sub-Saharan Africans, which basically all sub-Saharan means is any African nation south of the Sahara Desert. So both West African, Central African, East African, and Southern African are classified as sub-Saharan Africans, because basically, Esau is trying to create a distinction between North Africa and the rest of the African border, because they're trying to make it seem as though those North Africans are actually Arabs, when in reality, for the most part, man, they are Hamites as well. Because you have the Egyptians, well, they are actually, Ishmaelites, right? Arabs, which of course, you have a lot of Ishmaelites, you have a lot of Hamites among them. But for the most part, in those North Africans, they are all Hamites, okay? The tribe of Puts, I believe, Foot. Those are the North Africans, and the Egyptians are Mizraim. But now, right now, you have the Arabs living in that land. But back to what I was saying. And the reason why I'm talking about this Guinea right now is because if you actually watch the Godfather of Harlem, you know that whenever they talk about the Italians, and I'm just like 5 episodes or so in, whenever they are talking about the Italians, they always use that term Guinea to refer to them. They say, oh, well, the Italians are doing something. They don't say the Italians, they say the Guineas, the Guineas, the Guineas. That's the term that they use to refer to them. So I now try to look for the reason why on YouTube or on Google why the Guineas were referred to, or the Italians are referred to as Guinea. So this is the an article from the Guardian.com. In American crime movies, Italians are either called Guineas or Guineas. I'm not sure of the spelling. What is the origin of this derogatory term? And now you see the fact checking now comes in. Incorrect. Italians call blacks Guineas for historiographical reasons. But if you watch those movies, you see that it wasn't the Italians calling the blacks Guineas, right? Rather everybody else calling the Italians the Guineas. So continuing on. Sorry, wrong. Guinea is an offensive term for Italians in the US. I have never, and I have a number of Italian relatives heard it used for blacks. In my area, at least, it is not however common as not however as common as WAP or even Dago. In fact, and this word WAP, I believe it's guapo, right? There's a term in the, I think it was either Spanish or Italian. The word is guapo, and I've forgotten the meaning of the word. But that's not important. And it's another derogatory term that they use for the Italians. So continuing on. In fact, Guinea seems rather old-fashioned. All these terms are, of course, politically incorrect. I don't know why Guinea is or was used for Italians. It does seem odd. Perhaps it refers to the relative darkness of southern Italian immigrants compared to earlier arrivals from England slash and Ireland, etc. So let me just and I want to read this part I highlighted because this is actually the main point right here. Guinea, derogatory term for Italian by 1896, was originally Guinea Negro. Etim Online says 1740s and meant black person of mixed ancestry. It was applied to Italians, right? And this is how this is not where Esau plays games and becomes crafty because these devils know that I'm saying all this just to say this that Italians are that for the most part, Italians, especially the Sicilians and the other apostles on them, I've already said this before that Italians are jakes, okay? Not just Italians, but the Irish, right? The Scots, right? The original Germans, even the original British, and the same thing with the original French as well. And even for the most part, the Spanish, because you have to remember when the Moors took over Europe, the parts that the largest area that they controlled during that time was Spain. And even the Spanish, for the most part, they were also all Jakes, right? It was ruled by Jakes, right? The Middle East, the Middle Ages, the medieval period was ruled by Jake during the medieval times, okay? Or I should say yeah, it was ruled by Jake during those medieval times. And that is the reason why, up until we go coming into the 1900s, the late 19th century to the 1900s, right? The nations I just mentioned, the Italians, the Spanish, the Irish, and even the Scottish weren't considered white, you know, because they were just recently inducted into whiteness. And the reason why is because a lot of those peoples are descended from Jake, you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And this video is one of those speckled birds, scattered Israelites videos. Let me get that preset. That should be in the book of Jeremiah. I forget where in the book of Jeremiah my heritage is unto me like unto a speckled bird, right? Let me get that. Jeremiah 12, verse 9. Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. The birds round about are against her. Come ye assemble all the beasts of the field, come to devour. Right now, what that speckled bird represents is the appearance of our people, especially during these times. That Jake is going to come in all shape, sizes, and ethnicities. That's the best term to use because our people have been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So you can't say that, oh well, there is this specific of course, there's a stereotypical look that the Israelite is going to have, that is so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian. But you can't say that all Israelites are going to look like that. You're going to have a lot of our people that are going to be looking like, the so-called Edomites, the so-called Arabs, the so-called Chinese, so-called Japanese, the so-called Korean, so on and so forth. And even in recent years, you see the way that Jake is going around the world, right? The passport bros, especially going around the world and spreading their seed. And this isn't a new thing, right? Because there are a lot of people that, I can even attest to that personally that there are a lot of members of people in my family that have, gone overseas and giving birth to children or with the heathen, and now they have children that they still at least kind of look like Jake, but they somewhat look like the heathen as well. And as you already know, the nationality of our people, right? The bloodline, it comes from the father. And if an Israelite man goes and lies with a woman of the heathen nation and gives birth to a child, that child will also be an Israelite. And you have that continuing from generation to generation. You see that eventually that child looks exactly like the heathen. And you can see that with Drake, Blake Griffin, and various other Israelites, right? And this happened even in the past as well, because the truth of the matter is that a lot of jigs right now are lighter skinned than they were original. Let me just say it like that. Nigeria has lightened up a lot because of all the mixing with the heathen. Because if you look at pictures from, during that transatlantic slave trade up to segregation, Jim Crow, right, neo-colonialism period, you see that Jake was really, really dark skinned back then. Jake was damn black back then. You look at all these pictures of the old quote unquote civil rights icons. I'm talking about what's the name of this woman again? The underground railroad woman. I've forgotten her name. God damn, I've forgotten her name. You see how dark skinned she looked. And you had a lot of our people right back during that time that were dark skinned as well, but they lightened up because of all the mixing. And the same thing happened with a lot of our people in Europe during that time. That's why you have a lot of these European countries, right? Like Greece, for example, one of the countries that I didn't even mention, Greece, right? Um, Italy, Spain, Ireland, Scotland, and the like that they weren't seen as whites up until just recently. Hell, you see, hell, that's the main reason why the English was putting so much hell on the Irish, the Scottish, I believe the Welsh as well, because there are a lot of Welsh people that are also Jakes. All those nations that are in the UK, and the reason why is because Esau Edom came into power in Britain, in Britain, right, in England, and began to put hell on Jakes that were living in those other parts of the UK during that time. That's why you have the Irish potato famine and all that history, because those people were Jakes. That's why you have the Irish even being put in ships as well and being shipped over to Babylon the Great, because those people were Jakes and they were also under the curses. And this proves it even more. And what this proves is that Esau knew that some of these people, specifically, we're talking specifically now of southern Italians, like the Sicilians, they knew that a lot of those people had descended from Jakes, and a lot of those people would have been Israelites as well. And that's why they were calling them Guineas, okay? Because if you let's go into the etymology of the word Guinea, and if you go into the etymology of the word Guinea, you see that this word Guinea is actually a term to refer to Jake, okay, one of these bywords, these proverbs which our people will be called by. And even the Italians, they were also called by that same byword and proverb, and that byword is of course guinea. So this is the term guinea. Former British coin 1660s from Guinea, because the coins were first minted for British trade with Guinea, but soon in domestic use and with gold from Africa. The original guinea was in use from 1663 to 1813. Guinea region along the west coast of Africa, presumably from an African word, perhaps Tuareg, Aginau, black people. Right, so you're seeing that that term Guinea is used to refer to Jake, okay, so-called black people, specifically Jake, because all the peoples that are from the various countries of Guinea in West Africa. That's your Guinea, your Equatorial Guinea, your Guinea-Bissau, right? Papua New Guinea is not a part of that, because that's the New Guinea, something that was discovered after those three regions, after the region of Guinea was discovered by the UK. So as I was saying, your Guinea regions in the west coast of Africa, those were Jakes that were living in those lands, okay, Israelites that were living in those lands. And continuing on, as a derogatory term for an Italian, it is from a Guinea, Negro, black person of mixed ancestry applied to Italians because of their dark complexions relative to Northern Europeans, and after 1911 it was occasionally applied to Hispanics and Pacific Islanders as well. Right, because because like I said, these Italians, right, they were descended from Jakes, and back then, when this was used, that is the late 19th century, and a lot of these Italians they looked like light skinned Jakes, right? If you look at the pictures of some of these old Italians, man, they look like light skinned Jakes, and you even have some pictures of some of these Edomites as well over in Babylon the Great, that you find out that wait a minute, that they actually were Jake, right? Like there was this guy that was a politician, and he looked like an Edomite, right? But he was actually an Israelite. He was actually Jake. I think that it was his father. It was that his Negro side came from his father, because you also had some tears as well, in which their father was basically an Edomite, or at least Edomite looking, but their mother was an Israelite, right? Like, I'm forgetting the name of this woman, Dana something. I've forgotten her name. But that's not important, right? These are just examples that I'm using to illustrate the point. So what you are seeing is that that term, was being used because Esau knew that those Italians are specifically, those Italians are specifically descended from Jakes, right? You Israelites as well. Hell, they were even calling them Negroes, calling them niggers as well, using the N word on them, just like they did with you Southern Kingdom Jakes, and they did the same thing with the Hispanic as well, because they knew the nations, or which are they knew who the scattered nations were. But the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American, Esau always knew, and Esau knows exactly who the true people are. Hell, there's no doubt in my mind that even Vocab knows that we are the Israelites, but because he's been sent out here to run interference, right, he's going to deny it and pretend like he doesn't know. But at the end of the day, this is just further evidence that Esau knows who our people are, right? And he knows, for the most part, where the tribes have been scattered to as well. So with that, I'm just going to end the video right there. Just want to show this observation, right? This information. So once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Basham, Yahweh, Basham, Racha, Kwadash, Wa Abad Babal, and through the Spirit of Yakim, and you are quite edified. Shalom.